different private sector and the public sector here. Madam, thank you for coming. The China 3 Gorges Corporation, represented by Honorable Zuberi Saab and Sajid Aslam Saab, of course, friend and regional lead of ACCA, and Dr. Khalid Waheed and Dr. Zainab, of course, from our partner organization, the SDPI, and our good friend and his company, the China Overseas Port Holding Company, which is managing Gwadar, also being represented here. And we have Miss Alia Idris, who's the head of the ESG from the Karachi Electric, K Electric. Welcome, madam, to the meeting. And we are very grateful for everyone for taking time out for this meeting on assessing the materiality of the ESG in wind and solar power projects in the CPEC. Before we proceed into the details of the meeting, I just want to give a little context. Because Sajid Sab, I was in China recently. So if you want to talk about CPEC, I just arrived a week ago, and as many of you know, that the third Belt and Road Forum Summit is going to be taking place in October, which will, of course, CPEC is part and parcel of the Belt and Road Initiative. And there was a preparatory meeting in a working group meeting in Beijing, held by the CICC Investment Fund, and also by our friends from the Belt and Road Green Development Alliance, held a very fruitful dialogue. And I noticed and I saw that the commitment and priority now given to the second phase of CPEC, because the first phase of CPEC for 10 years is, of course, already complete. The second phase of CPEC is all about green energy, renewable energy, and green development. And that is the focus. And I had also the privilege, along with my friend Peter from China Overseas Port Holding Company, to be in the event with the Vice Prime Minister, He Feng of China, and Prime Minister Shabashi. And Sajid sir, we will be very happy to know, since you are a ESG expert in Pakistan, and we learn from you. Thank you. That one of the key outcomes that the Vice Prime Minister of China said was Green Corridor. Officially, that Innovation Corridor, Green Corridor, and there was another one. Umar, which one was that? Digital. But Green Corridor was a very key announcement that was made by Vice Prime Minister He Feng. And so I think that what we are going to talk about this morning is very timely, very opportune in moving forward. We at the Pakistan-China Institute, in collaboration with the SDPI, and Dr. Khalid and his colleagues have been working very hard, Dr. Mukhar, Dr. Abid as well. And then we have the Fudan University with us on the Greening CPEC initiative, which all of you know. And we are very grateful for your consistent participation support in this. We have now developed a very basic but attempted to undertake ESG matrix for wind and power projects. And this is indeed an ambitious task. Am I audible to the people who are joining virtually or not really?
Yes, we can hear you.
Lovely.
I'm here.
Great. Good to see you. So it's indeed an ambitious task because, as you know, that while we have talked about renewable investments, we have not been able to garner renewable investments. So this is a recurring conversation topic, and Shahjahan Mirza Saab has also been sharing with us the limitations that we have, not from, of course, from him and his department, but from other regulatory bodies in terms of the tariff that we are giving renewable energy investors compared to fossil fuel investors, and the international competitive bidding, which is recently conducted for solar, did not receive the international attention that we were hoping for in renewable. So I think that is also a challenge for all the colleagues here present. How can we translate the vision, the policy into actual investment in wind and solar? That is also, I think, something that we need to talk about. So it has to go beyond conversation, and I'd be actually very happy to hear from companies as well, like K Electric, like China Three Gorges, like China Overseas Port Holding, because I think we can't only depend on the government. It has to be, sometimes I think the private sector-led development is required. And of course, China Three Gorges has investments in Jimpir and Thata. We have, how many, sir, wind power projects here?
Three wind power.
Three wind powers.
50 megawatt each to 150 megawatt.
150 megawatt. So this is something that we'd be very happy to discuss and take forward. And we are very grateful also to our partners from the Belt and Road Green Development Alliance, who are also linked with the Ministry of Environment and Ecology in China. Thank you for joining us. Friend. And I had the privilege of being with you, Mr. Zhang, and to have the three forums together. This is the third one. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And we would like to kick off the discussion. And I believe that I will be giving the floor to Madam Alia Idris, who's the head of the Environmental Sustainable Governance of K Electric. And of course, for those who do not know, for our Chinese friends, K Electric is a leading company that is actually managing the electric supply of Karachi. And I think the first model where the electricity company has been outsourced to a private company, including generation. And I think it's a pretty successful model, and I think it's more efficient than white elephants that we have public sector. I think it's very
Before,
yeah. Yes, sir.
But you have missed hydro. Hydro is also included in that. And hydro is the major partner now. It is well experienced, and everybody knows that hydro technology is proven technology. And I will say that wind and solar is still in the development stage, although it has developed a lot, costs are very low, but you have missed, I think.
Sir, firstly, I always defer to your wisdom. So I stand corrected. I do want to note that since I'm not as big of an expert as Dr. Khalid, but some of the experts can test that whether hydro should be in the definition of green energy or not. Some of the experts can test. So I leave the conclusion of this to wiser minds. Point noted. Madam Alia Idris.
Thank you, PCI, for this opportunity today. I'm highly honored to be part of this session. ESG today has taken center stage of most of the debates that take place globally, and the impetus and then the purpose basically is to fight the climate change, deforestation, resource devaluation, pollution, etc. And at KE, we have also embarked on a journey of embedding ESG into a core strategy. And the purpose is to promote green practices, sustainable practices. We want to manage environment stewardship. We want to be accountable, measurable. We want to ensure that there is governance. We have some set practices and procedures. We want that there is adherence to those procedures and policies. I would like to share my presentation that I, if you would allow, I would like to share my presentation here so that we can have a quick look at it. Can you share my screen?
Alia, sorry, 1 second. Can I just quickly intervene?
Yeah, please.
I have some messages from our Chinese friends that they can't hear us. Is it still the case?
Well, I can hear you.
Now. We can hear you now. We can hear.
Okay.
There was one interruption, but
Okay.
it's okay.
Okay. Thank you.
I am trying to share my screen and somehow. Can you all see it? Can you see my screen?
We can, madam, we can.
Okay, thank you. So besides what we're doing on the ESG front, KE has also submitted an investment plan um, for 2030 to NAPRA, which includes 30% of renewable energy in our energy mix today. So predominantly we're focusing on solar energy. However, wind and hydro content is also part of that plan that we have shared with. Can you see my screen? Because what I can see here is that my screen is not being shared. So just let me know. Can you see this highlights slide?
Yes, we can see it in the room. Yeah, we can.
Okay, thanks. So these are some initiatives that we have taken in last fiscal year. One of our leading project was Roshni Bajis, which is Pakistan's first female electrician program, in which we enrolled women from vulnerable communities such as Liari, Orangi, Baldia, Sujani. And through economic empowerment, these women challenge the status quo and breaking the biases. They have become embodiment of women empowerment, and I'll going forward, this program has also received several laurels across the globe. It has been recognized as S&P Global Award winner, Pakistan's only program. And I will give you more details as we go forward. We have also undertaken a safety initiative campaign. So this is around messaging around energy conservation, responsible consumption, and safety to 200 schools in Karachi. We are also doing a partnership with Ahuat, in which we are basically through an endowment fund providing solar solutions to unserved and underserved communities of Karachi. Mangrove plantation and health camps are also part of our program, which we continue to do. We have also introduced our KHI Awards, which is a social initiative in which we recognize entities that are doing goods in the social space, and through electricity rebates, we provide them benefits of around 40 million. So Roshni Baji program, as I earlier mentioned, this is a women empowerment program aligned with our DNI SDG 5 goal. We have so far enrolled 150 women in this program. They have reached out to 650,000 households and imparting knowledge around safety, best practices around standards that should be followed, how energy conservation can help them save energy, and what are the standards and best practices that should be undertaken because there is a research study that says that in-house electrocutions or safety incidences happen when so women and children are basically most vulnerable to in-house safety incidences. So this is the first program that has been recognized by S&P Global. These women also represented Pakistan at Dubai Expo, and the program has also been showcased in Khalij Times and Gulf Today. KHI Awards is our program in which we recognize as social entities, NGOs, not-for-profit organizations who are working in niche sectors in the areas of uplifting communities, safety, education, public health, heritage and culture, sustainability and environment, livelihood, and sports. So this is the initiative that takes place every year. We are launching this program in August. To ask for nominations, and the award ceremony takes place somewhere around March. Last time it was March. This year it will be somewhere around December. So we want to recognize all the entities who work in this space. So there was one initiative that was taken to impart knowledge around responsible consumption, energy conservation, and safety to 200 schools in Karachi. We have a target of reaching 200,000 schools in the current fiscal year. And through this, we have also partnered with the government of Sindh Education Department, and they're helping us reach to our set target. We will be reaching to around 500 schools this year. KE Huat Endowment Fund. Through this fund, we are reaching to those areas which are either unserved or underserved, such as Baba Bhit Island and others, where KE either has no means, or people somehow have little power availability to access to energy. So through this fund, we are providing them access to energy and reliable and affordable energy, basically. So we have 60 beneficiaries in this project today. So this is Naya Bil Hara Kadam is a campaign that we initiated in line with our reducing our carbon footprint, and this has been adopted by SSGC. And going forward, several corporate entities are looking to go paperless and basically reducing their waste and their carbon footprint. So I'd just like to play this quick video here.
बिल अब साइज में नया पर तफसीलात में पूरा की ने उठाया एक हरा कदम ताकि सालाना लाखों लीटर पानी और हजारों दरख्तों को बचाया जा सके। की इलेक्ट्रिक नया बिल हरा कदम।
We have been issuing our sustainability reports for last 2 years, and Center of Excellence in Responsible Business is our partner in this exercise. We somehow declare our commitments to SDGs in this report. We meet GRI standards, and going forward, if IFRS is made a compulsion, then obviously we will be reporting all our sustainability risks and challenges around that, and climate disclosures as well. Our sustainability report for FY23 is in development phase, and it will be launched by mid of September, hopefully. We have also embarked, as I earlier mentioned, on an ESG framework journey. And in this effort, we have benchmarked KE against global entities such as Diva, Adani, Tata, Meralco, Energisa, and several other entities, global entities, who are doing good in this space. And we've also looked at local entities such as Interloop, who have attained certain benchmarks in this A space, to understand how KE can improve its ESG journey, and setting targets for 2030 2040. What are the key areas, and what are the materiality assessment? What are the topics that is relevant to our stakeholders, and what are the key topics that are relevant to the business and to the leadership and the board? And the entire exercise was conducted in past 8-10 months, and we have developed a materiality metrics to analyze material topics such as GHG emissions, customer centricity, renewable energy, how we are dealing with innovation, digitization. So all of this was part of our materiality assessment, and we have now readily available materiality metrics for KE and what is expected from us going forward. For 2030 and 2040, we have finalized our targets, which are under approval within our board. And as soon as we have alignment, we will be disseminating those targets through a public disclosure in our sustainability report. And again, there will be an implementation of that roadmap and streamlining our processes, and there will be a governance mechanism to ensure that whatever we commit today in this journey, we analyze the data, we have reporting around it, and we showcase our progress in this journey. Besides that, I would just like to show a few pictures of what we do in the community on the social side of things, on the environment side of things. So these are some of our projects that we do to facilitate communities in Karachi. We have also received several laurels globally and locally as well. These are our partners in this initiative. I believe that ESG helps us drive a positive change and improve business resilience. So going forward, we would like that ESG is implemented in its true sense, and we are able to create societal change towards the betterment of all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam, for your presentation and what the Karachi K Electric is doing. I think you're following quite a leading by example, following an international standard of ESG governance from the presentation, or that we can tell. Keep up the good work, and I think it would be a good template for other companies in Pakistan to follow as well. And I think you can really lead the way. Now I would like to call upon Mr. Zhang Jianyu, who is the Executive President of the BRI Green Development Institute. And your presentation or your remarks are on the material aspects of wind and solar power projects. Over to you, my dear friend.
Hi, can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. It was such a pleasure to be invited. And Mustafa, just for you a couple of days ago, as you mentioned, your trip here to China certainly has been very fruitful, and we also learned a lot from you. And thank you very much for all of your wonderful comments. Well, one thing I want to apologize is that Mustafa, I was told not to prepare, no need to prepare a PowerPoint. Actually, I did. And since I saw the previous speaker use a presentation, may I ask, maybe I can also share my screen, but I want to apologize. These are the really sort of the screen and notes I prepared for myself for this speech.
Sure.
But I thought, and so understandably, some of them are in Chinese. I apologize for not being able to have time to translate that. But I think maybe I'll share the screen just to, as if I was speaking. It will also help you to know sort of and follow my talk. Would that be okay?
Certainly.
The host has disabled from screen sharing. That's why I'm asking.
Screen sharing needs to be enabled, Umar. Screen sharing needs to be enabled. Just hang on a second.
Yeah, I can share it now. I can share now. Can you see it? Can you see it now? Hello?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Again, apologize. These are in Chinese, but bear with me anyway. So again, thank you very much for our great partner. Your invitation, and I have to say, I'm very excited because we have learned and talked to you for a long time, but actually this is the first time I actually saw you in your conference room with your colleagues, and that makes very surreal. But I'm very excited. So I was asked to talk about the ESG part of the Renewable Development China BRI and so on and so forth. So basically, as I said, I was preparing for this talk, and there are basically sort of several aspects. I want to talk a little bit about the China experience. I talk something about the BRI and also BRI GC, the organization that was newly funded in China to help green the BRI. And if I still have time, I prepare a little sort of example of one of the project endeavors that we're undertaking to develop basically a sort of development principle for wind projects overseas, and just to show you sort of our thinking. So I think people all know right now that China is quite serious about. China is really sort of quite serious about climate change, and President Xi made that remark in 2020 that China will peak by 2030 and also neutralize before 2060. So that becomes the famous 30-60 sort of target. But the world should also know that China that was built upon China's commitment in 2015 as part of the Paris commitment. In terms of development of the non-fossil fuel powers, afforestation, and so on and so forth. And further, President Xi, affirmed, committed to the world again in 2021 that China will help developing countries to develop low carbon and green energy systems. So I think my point I'm trying to make here is this is a thoughtful sort of logic development back from 2015 China's Paris Agreement, and just get further sort of strengthened one side by the other. I think one aspect that has to show the seriousness China attaches to this one, and a methodical sort of process that China has taken to get where China is today. So there's no surprise. And the other one is really to assure the world that when China made a commitment, China is very serious. All those commitments are backed by China's own resolve, by China's own experience, and also by China's own resource. Either is to achieve the targets domestically or to achieve the targets internationally. So there's what, and we all know, develop the green power, renewable energy systems is really key. That the IPCC predicted that by 2050, if we really want to neutralize, if we're really serious about it, we need about 80% of the power comes from renewable sources. And the domestic model from China has shown that that's also about the same level of the green power's share in China's own energy mix by 2050, if China is going to achieve the 2060 carbon neutrality goal. So the happy news is, you probably remember 2 slides before, China's Paris Agreement is to have renewables more than 12 billion kilowatts. And I'm very happy to tell you that China has already achieved that by the end of the last year. And in terms of all the green power together. And there are sort of several figures. Last year is the first time China's total installed capacity of the green power has exceeded that of the fossil based power. Totally last year, China has the total power that was generated by renewables from China in terms of kilowatt hours is equal to that of all the power, from all the sources that was generated in the EU of the 27 country combined, just to share the to show the order of magnitude. And also, I think it's more impressively that the total installed capacity, which is still growing, people said that this year we're probably going to be able to install more than 150 million kilowatts in China in terms of the solar and wind. But more impressively is that is not just achieved through a centralized sort of PV station and centralized wind powers, but actually 60% was developed through what we call RE plus model. That whether it is the renewables on the fish pond, renewables on the greenhouse, renewables with afforestation effort, and also more importantly, renewables. Certainly rooftop solar is one obvious choice, but also very impressively, the renewables developed in conjunction with China's poverty alleviation efforts. So I mentioned this because I think it's really important to develop these renewables, not just for the sake of development, but also to integrate that with your own social development process, which is really a very impressive China experiences. And I also argue that only by integrating the developed renewables with your own system development process will make that process more stable, and also you can really sort of deliver on the target. So that goes back to my earlier points that when China tries to do something, when China make an announcement or make a commitment, it's very serious, and it figures out all the different ways trying to develop that. So today, China is also thinking on a theoretical level with regard to what's really the BRI can contribute to the world. That our analysis has shown that all the development aspect of BRI is closely linked with the SDG goals, and also our cooperation with countries, including Pakistan, has also contributed to the country's SDG processes, respectively. I think one important thing to note is that right now, I think we are potentially suffering from a staggering sort of process of the global SDG movement. In a meeting recently I participated, a Deputy Secretary General of the UN told me that their assessment of the SDG progress is only about 20% achieved, compared with the 2030 target. So I think the whole world really need to join hands and ramp up our efforts together if we're really serious about this 17 SDG goals. So BRI, particularly green BRI, from China perspective, is really the China way that can help the whole world to achieve that, including partners with other countries. So when I say China is serious about the greening the BRI, is really being demonstrated from two aspects, but also they're linked with each other. One is China is serious on greening its overseas investment, regardless it's a road project, is a cement plant, or any kind of infrastructure sort of project, which was the original sort of foundation for the whole green BRI movement. And the other one is really that I'll move to that slide next, which is sort of help other countries developing the green power system. This project, this slide, you cannot see, probably cannot read because it's Chinese. It talks about Chinese government is making two significant changes to the overseas project management process. The first one is it used to be the green environmental management project is managed on a sort of post what's the word, ad hoc sort of process, that you do a project, certainly you're required to follow the local laws and regulations, but you only need to register that after the project is completed. But that has been changed right now. Right now the requirement is integrated into the whole process of the project, from the original project proposal process to the design phase, to the construction phase, to the operation phase, and even to the post-construction sort of the conclusion phase, if a project is going to be concluded following 20, 30 years of operation. The other one is on the standards. Used to be the China's overseas investment infrastructure projects are only required to follow the local laws and regulations in terms of environment management. But right now, that has been enhanced, elevated to the level that for Chinese investment, you need to follow either the China standards or in the absence of both local standards and China standards, the international standards. So you can imagine that has greatly enhanced the green aspect of the of overseas investment. And your partner, the Fudan University, just published a report, and was also reported by Reuters that the first 6 months of 2023 is the greenest 6 months of China's BRI investment for the past 10 years. This year is going to be the 10-year anniversary, and actually in 2021, the China's overseas investment energy project has already exceeded that of the fossil fuel. And China built no coal-fired power plants anymore from 2021 and 2022, and the majority goes to sort of wind and solar. And I think that's mostly because of two aspects. One is that China is providing a very reliable, low-cost, high-quality wind and solar products that the cost has been reduced about 87% compared with 10 years ago. And the other one is really the finance aspect that China is trying to provide to the overseas project. And Mustafa was with us, as he mentioned, the week before, in terms of the CICC cooperation and also cooperation with BRIGC. And so this year's focus, as we go into the next 10 year of the BRI development, and it goes to the next 10 year of the CPEC, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor development, we felt that in addition to the low-cost, high-quality, renewable energy product parts that we can provide, the other one we're going to really ramp up is the finance part, and that will come from a stream of effort from both in terms of central government's subsidy to individual commercial banks discount rate loans to more diverse formats of investment in terms of equity investment, FDIs, all the way to grants that was going to be provided by the Chinese government aid agencies. In addition, also going to come from the private sector NGOs like us, BRGC, that's really trying to line up all those efforts together. So this is BRGC. This was launched by the BRI Green Development Coalition. That was launched by President Xi personally in 2017, and it was established, by our then Minister of Environment and Ecology, Li Ganjie, who is a really senior government official right now in the system. He has been promoted after that, and we're registered as an international NGO, and really look forward to work with you. So if you bear with me, just sort of a little bit, I don't know why my screen is on the wind part. That this is one of the projects that the BRGC, one of the projects the BRGC is doing. Is to develop a guideline for overseas wind projects. And the reason we are doing this is exactly follow what I just said earlier, that with those two efforts, we recognize the importance of the ESG aspect of the even for the green projects like wind and solar. And it is important also if we really want to have the banks and financial institutions participate in this. So we need to develop some guidelines, principles, or even all the way to standards with overseas project. So we wanted to start with wind. I don't have time to go over the details, but just to say, I think this is an area that we can really explore with and work with each other to take care, not just the project itself needs to be green, but also the ESG part also needs to be green. And we're very mindful of the local social situations and also local requirements on companies' own sustainability, finance, accounting, disclosure, and so on and so forth. So we recognize only by doing so, we'll be able to really to fulfill China's own commitment into this. So as I said, China has arguably contributed on the lowering the cost part, but now it's for China to contribute on the finance part. And we really look forward to working with you guys. And as Mustafa always said, we very much look forward to the next 10 years of cooperation in the context of the CPEC. And very much look forward to seeing you in Beijing in the BRI Summit. Thank you very much.
Thank you, my friend, Mr. Zhang. You're very well informed on this realm of challenges and opportunities and green transition that is emanating from China and how other countries can cooperate. Thank you. And thank you for your presentation. There's been some requests within this room to get the copy of your presentation. I don't know if you will permit that, or you can charge RMB or dollars. It's up to you. Because now RMB currency is increasingly being used for BRI projects. So that is up to you.
We'll provide it not only free, we'll provide everybody who is requesting the PPT not only get a copy of that full translated, but also with a subsidy to encourage you open that and read it. Okay. So.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Very kind of you. That's excellent. Very, very generous and magnanimous of you. And indeed, we will see you in the Belt and Road Summit in Beijing for sure.
See you guys all in Beijing in just about 2 months. So
yes, very soon. And I believe that the president himself will be receiving the guests and hosting the summit. So I think that'll be very high level. And we look forward to being in it. And thank you for your very comprehensive presentation, Dr. Zhang. I'd like to now invite Madam Zohra Sarwar Khan. She's the Joint Director from the Security and Exchange Commission of Pakistan, which is a regulatory body. It's an autonomous body on the topic of regulators' perspective of the materiality of ESG metrics. And Madam, I would like that not only the theoretical part, but what is actually SCCP doing also? We would like to know that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kasaf, for inviting me in today's session. And it's, of course, a pleasure to be here among learned panelists. And I recall in January this year, in a seminar, we had just started discussing how regulator has started the journey towards ESG-related issues. And it's wonderful to see that in a span of merely 6-7 months, there has been great progress. And this progress is not just led by CP, but as the private sector has also been a key partner in leading these issues. Next slide. I'll just quickly start from where the journey of regulatory initiatives basically enumerated. Considering that governance is one of the key pillars for regulator, our G side, the governance side, has been quite strengthened with different regulatory initiatives from time to time, starting with Code of Corporate Governance in 2012. Which focused on composition of board by encouraging independent directors, which is now a mandatory requirement. And in 2017, we mandated that there should be at least one female director on board. And as a result, we now see that more than 90% of the listed companies have one or more female directors on their board. Of course, this is not enough, but it's kind of challenging that glass ceiling, which as you can say. Secondly, in 2013 also we had a very initial discussion with the private sector. There were CSR voluntary guidelines at that time. And during 2017, when our main primary law was being reviewed, it was made part of the law that the ESG considerations are considered at the board level rather than leaving it downstream at the management level. That is why now it is a requirement of law that the board of directors not only consider policies, but also disclose their ESG initiatives as part of their annual report to members. Then during 2020 till 2022 and now, we have introduced certain circulars which are there to basically gauge the regulatory impact of diversity on boards and managerial level. The gender bond guidelines, the green bond guidelines, the stewardship guidelines, all this was meant to create a little bit of depth in sustainability-based products and provide guidance at board level. The major breakthrough, or you can say the main consolidated discussion that started was in 2022 when we introduced a preliminary position paper on ESG roadmap. The purpose of that position paper was to start a discussion in a more consolidated manner with all the stakeholders of the key areas that we consider should be part of the corporate sector and capital markets. We did suggest certain milestone in the ESG position paper and set different targets. Please change the slide. So the key milestone that we was kind of a wish list for SCCP was starting from advocacy and capacity building to having a consolidated dashboard for data, moving towards ESG guide and regulatory guidelines. And of course, all this is incomplete if we do not have ESG-based products and ESG-based index. And in the end, gauging the impact of all these initiatives. Of course, considering certain limitations, the timeline has been a little bit compromised, but we are on the way. After public dissemination of ESG roadmap in 2022, we held our first advocacy session in January this year. And it was a pleasure to see that not only the private sector, but institutions, all key institutions, which include the stock exchange, the corporate side, the associations, Pakistan Business Council, even professional institutes. Sajid Saab was there to give an excellent presentation on. Sajid everywhere. Yes, no, we actually requested and we got wonderful feedback on his presentation. All these stakeholders were present there not only to discuss, but it was also suggested that this milestone be kind of finalized a little more fine-tuned, and key stakeholders should recognize their responsibilities, as well as there should be some expected guidelines from each institutions. That is why we drafted a ESG action plan and circulated it amongst all the key stakeholders. If you could just kindly change the. So the scope of ESG action plan was to first determine that what are the key areas we would be focusing, which would start from advocacy, awareness sessions, capacity building sessions. We had a capacity building session in May, considering the sustainability standards that now are in place. Then we are also concentrating on how access to information is ensured. And we suggested a centralized interactive dashboard known as ESG Sustained, which is catering to all kinds of ESG information, data, reports, rules, regulations, a kind of a one-stop place for the shareholders, for government agencies, and for investors. Third focus was disclosures, of course. We had proposed that we divided into two parts with the preliminary ESG guide and then moving towards a more concentrated ESG regulatory guide. The purpose was that first in ESG disclosure guide, just a taste of disclosure is given, and that companies start to disclose at through whatever reporting framework they may seem fit, that what is actually happening in their own place. And as we can see right now, K Electric gave a presentation where they are already disclosing their initiatives under different regulatory regime. And considering now sustainability standards, two of the sustainability standards are in place. So we would be moving towards ESG regulatory guide as well, gauging the effect of those sustainability standards on financial statements. Then we would like to see sustainability-based products. Recently, a gender bond has been issued, which of course is like privately placed, but we hope that more such sustainability-based products are in place, and then we are able to kind of move towards an ESG index. Then exploring insurance solution for environmental risk is an area which is untapped, and we would like to have certain products that provide depth to capital market. And lastly, of course, all these initiatives are incomplete until we have an impact assessment of what has been done over the years. You can please change. One of the key areas in ESG action plan was mapping the stakeholders, and we engaged all the stakeholders during our sessions, which included multilateral institutions, Pakistan Institute of Corporate Governance, ACCA, ICAP, CFA, Pakistan Business Council, YCCI, and we are also moving towards consultation with credit rating agencies, which will be part of these stakeholders. And we are also constantly engaging with other partners, which are showing their interest in being part of this action plan, since it will be the first national level action plan for regulated sector. And if State Bank joins hands, that would of course add more depth to this action plan. So what challenges basically we have seen during this time? First is, of course, creating the buy-in of ESG for all stakeholders. And we believe that the action plan would help in creating that buy-in, because each institution will be responsible for their own regulatory, for their own ESG initiatives, and they would be partnering with other stakeholders. So the coordination and collaboration would help keep the momentum. Secondly, of course, the main thing is there's huge awareness gap on ESG issues, and therefore capacity building sessions have been held and will continue to be in place, and not just generic capacity building sessions, but we're also moving towards sectoral based capacity building, so that the modalities of each sector are catered for when we move towards a reporting framework. Being a government organization, of course, we're resource constrained, not just financially, but also in terms of having the right professionals who understand what the key areas are required to be focused. Then, of course, determining the impact of ESG initiatives, considering the sustainability standards and the impact on financial statements. This is one of the area which requires very careful consideration, and all the stakeholders must sit together and have an independent as well as consolidated effort for how an ESG reporting framework is adopted, which is helpful for all the stakeholders. There's, of course, lack of products, which we've already mentioned. And as we move, of course, we see that we will be faced with greenwashing, but of course, that's a later. So way forward for us is first to move towards awareness and capacity building sessions. We're also engaging with sectoral organizations, with the Pakistan Business Council, with chambers, so that we can sit together, know their issues. It's not just the opportunities, but also the risk that needs to be recognized at board level and then reported. So it's very important that ownership comes from the corporate sector, from the capital market, from the stakeholders, and from the institutions. Then, of course, determining the manner, extent of adaptability of sustainability reporting frameworks. Initially, we have had the discussion of how we go towards a reporting framework, but it is also important that the reporting framework requires data. And right at this point of time, not only are we there's dearth of framework, but there's also a dearth of data which would add to that framework. In context of ESG sustain, we have been able to collaborate with a multilateral for the design and launch. Which will be known as ESG sustain. I think it's one of the flagship dashboard, and it will be the first in Pakistan where all the ESG centric data, capacity building areas, laws, regulations will be placed. Of course, for data, for information, we would require consistent help as well as cooperation from all the stakeholders for taking the ownership of this dashboard in the long run. Then seeking collaboration and technical assistance for achieving other milestones. We are also in contact and talking with other organizations nationally as well as internationally that will help us in achieving the milestone, which includes the ESG sustain, which includes cooperation on ESG regulatory guide and products. Consultation right now is in process regarding the ESG action plan. We hope to finalize it in the coming 1-2 months, and hopefully it will be launched in the next advocacy session that we plan in September. And our upcoming session would focus on the investment specific side, which we have not been able to cater till now, as well as the climate change side, which is not only important, but now is, of course, it's part of the reporting framework. So till date, this is the progress we have made. The consistent effort by SCP has been to collaborate instead of going towards a regular mandatory approach. We have tried to go by a more consultative and synergized approach. And we have seen that not only it has been helpful for achieving our objectives, but it is of a more consolidated way of moving forward. And you would appreciate that as reporting frameworks are evolving, at the same speed, regulatory approach is also evolving. We do not have the approach which we used to have 2 years back. So the issue in itself is an evolving issue, and we are open to cooperation as well as collaboration with all the stakeholders rather than working in silos and having stringent regulatory requirements.
Thank you very much, Madam Zora, for your showcasing what SCCP is doing on this front. And I think the role of the regulator is very important. And also the fact that you are open and willing to engage with all other stakeholders, it's very important, because I think that's the last thing that we need to do is work in silos. Yes. There has to be a collective approach. And thank you very much. And now I'd like to give the virtual podium to Mr. Sajid Aslam, who will speak on the scoring strategy for the ESG matrix and how CPEC can benefit from the ESG regulations in Europe and worldwide. Sajid is quite an expert on ESG and has quite a nuanced understanding, and I personally learned from him. So over to you, Sajid.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you very much. And just one quick point on Zora, you have got 40,000 people from ACC at your disposal when you are talking about human resource, and I'm sure, I'm sure I can give the same. So we don't have a human resource constraint. It's just that how we leverage that. Those are young people. They are very keen. They are excited, and they are everywhere. They are at the regulator. They are in the industry. They're in the public sector. They're in the private sector. So I think that's the biggest asset which we can leverage. And I've seen other countries doing the same. This youth is very, very keen to contribute on that side. Thank you very much, first of all, to invite me here. I'll just give you a very quick introduction of ACC, what we do and where we are. We are a force for public good. And we use our network of almost 800,000 people and our presence in 178 countries to learn, curate data, really create those policy, have a voice there, and then contribute in a public interest. So that's a key area which we do. We ourselves as a ACCA are committed to SDGs, and we are working with 8,000 organizations around the world, which include 566 public sector entities and ministries, where we help them to really transition from their current practices to the new practices, whether it's an accounting side or it's a sustainability side. So this is the knowledge and the background and the products which we bring to the table. Next, please. Just to give you the context, what's happening, and then we can get into the regulation. So what happened as we speak today? So current trajectory of temperature is 2.4 degrees centigrade. That's mean most of the cities will not survive. If you want to take a very recent example is Jakarta, where the sea level is rising and they're moving their capital to 180 kilometers away from Jakarta. And there are many other cities within the Asia and APAC in general, which are facing the similar issue. What does it mean? That's mean the entire infrastructure either need to be reinforced or the entire city has to move. So it's a living and a livelihood challenge for a lot of cities just because of one area, the temperature is rising. It's a global issue and it's require a collective action. So whatever Indonesia does to really address that, it's not going to work if the rest of the world is not contributing or at least taking action for their share. 36% as we speak in 22 is still coming from the energy side, the carbon emissions or carbon equivalent emission or GHG emission we looked at. In Pakistan, luckily, energy sector is not the top one. Globally, it is. In Pakistan, agriculture is at the top and the energy is the second largest one. So 25% of our carbon emission in 22 came from energy sector. And given that it's a global living and livelihood challenge, so it's impacting everybody, every citizen, every individual, every kind of business, governments and their political equity. So it's basically affecting everything. And there are 3 or 4 key areas where they have started responding. The regulators and the governments and the development agencies, they are bringing more regulation, more standards, and they are requesting or asking and now mandating the compliances, which is also leading towards penalty if we don't. Then the investor, and there's a research shows that the 41% of the businesses, not the investment or financial space, but the business, they have changed their practice because investor asked them, and only 21% who basically complying with the regulation. So investors or the money has got a major power to change the practices of the business as compared to the regulator. And what investors are saying, give me the product which has got a right label. So the greenwashing issue, the mislabeling issue, misrepresentation issue, lack of knowledge issue, or lack of data issue, they are trying to address that through the regulator and the government side. Lenders are also saying, give me the visibility, how you are really handling your physical and procession risk towards sustainability or ESG, and then they put a certain price to that risk. Consumer and the activists, they are asking for the sustainable products. Like the young people, we are saying they want to contribute, and they want to contribute in all other ways as well, like with their money, with their expertise, but also by buying the products which are more sustainable. Another phenomena which is very important to understand, there is a $68 trillion which is moving from in intergenerational inheritance. And the people who are going to inherit that money, they are very young and they are very eco-friendly. So they are the one who are going to define that what are the criteria for investment and what is the criteria for buying. And that will change the dynamics of the business. If you look at the regulatory regime in a very recent past, so we see a lot of regulatory scrutiny, penalties on green claims. Right now, there's a directive in Europe, which is called Green Claim Directive, which is proposing 4% fine on the annual turnover. But at the same time, there's another parallel law, which is called CMA, that's a Competition and Market Authority, which is putting 10% on a global turnover if you are making a misrepresentation in terms of any labeling. And that is all about protecting the consumer and investor. And if you look at the legal legislation evolvement, so we see there were 21 laws in the last 20 years, and there was 57 new laws which were introduced in the last 3 years. And we are also moving from a voluntary and consultation mode to a right now, starting 2023. One and then so shall we wait? Or? Another thing in a regulation in Europe is that it's not only the regulation around the sustainability, they are creating all the complementary regulations for implementation of it. Europe is a very conservative society, which is a very prescriptive in terms of regulation. US is following that. So they are also coming up with the green guideline, which is very much influenced with the SFDR. And they have got $500 billion green bond, which were issued in 2022. So which all are at risk as soon as the new definition comes into place. And if you look at the APEC, if you look at the Middle East, so APEC has got the maximum laws, like they are going for a 41 laws as we speak. But again, the significant influence is EU. So whatever happening in EU from a sustainability perspective, that's the rest of the world is following. Can we get the slide up? So energy sector, if you look at the energy sector, so it's a backbone for everything. It's basically the providing of or enabling area. And that's quite exposed to that physical or transition risk, change in a regulation or a physical infrastructure, which could be damaged through what we have seen in floods and which we have seen in other climate vulnerability. And the second biggest area which also get affected is the built infrastructure, because built infrastructure is the 39% consumer of all that energy, which is emitting the carbon right now. And if there is a regulatory change within the built infrastructure, that will change the dynamics of how the energy is transmitted, where it's delivered, and the type of energy. The scope 3 issue or scope 2 issue will become very significant for the entire built infrastructure. And just to give you a number, what does it mean? The global real estate market is 217 trillion compared to global equity market, which is 72 trillion, and the bond market is 92 trillion. So if that built infrastructure get affected, then the entire supply chain or the significant industries which are associated with that, they will have an effect as well. So it's a strategy, marketing, competition risk. And then again, from a sustainability agenda, that's also creating that what kind of financial instruments you are bringing to the table. The profitability is driven there. And then also everything which is valuation of the share price or access to capital or retaining customer or retaining or developing talent, all is related with how you are communicating your sustainability agenda with the reliable data and robust reporting. And if we go to the next one, can we go to next slide? Okay. And if you look at that, there's a specific provisions which has created a new financial instrument, which are very specific to sustainability linked agendas or based on an ESG or a Paris Agreement compliance framework. So carbon credit is a one which is right now 402 billion in 22, expected to 4.4 trillion in 2030. That means there is a group which is taking a bet that the world will not achieve their 2030 target, and they will need that carbon credits to offset whatever they are generating today. And the current trajectory, seeing that their bet is in a good shape as compared to the rest of the world, which is looking at 2030 meeting that one. At the same time, for all the renewable energy, and there's a very good debate on the hydro, and there's a reason why and why it should or should not be included in that. It's not because of the nature, it's because of, in most of the cases, in a baseline calculation, they have already considered that hydro. And then the next hydro plant or hydro project may take 10 years, which will pass through that 2030 targets or 2025 target. So most of the time, the focus comes to the solar and wind, but the hydro is the biggest source of renewable energy. And US has already, most of their states have recognized that. And they have not only recognized that, they have recognized existing project, if they change their capacity or improve their efficiency, which help reduce the which provide that alternate energy to reduce the carbon emission, that can be converted into a carbon credit, which has got a very specific term in US called renewable energy certificate, and Europe, they use the guarantee of origin. At the same time, there is another instrument which is available, debt to nature swap. And we have seen in Belize very recently, $553 million debt was swapped with the nature. So they are spending $4 million every year on to really clean and make sure that their shores are clean and the fishery is going on. So there's operational income or employability, but $554 million loan is swapped with this action, which they will keep taking. So they don't have to pay that. They just have to make sure they do the right thing for their own country. And that's a very interesting phenomenon or financially. If you can move to next. So if you look at the material ESG topic, particularly from a solar and wind, because in a hydro, there's a lot of things which come to the community engagement because of the displacements and how we are really handling that. So if we categorize it, there are 8 key topics, 8 key material metrics which we need to capture. This is coming from the IFRS side, GRI also coming from their sectoral specific standard. They have given the oil and gas as a GRI 11. They have got given coal as 12, and then there's a fishery and agriculture, which is 13. IFRS coming with the S1, S2, which is a very recent phenomena. But if you look at the overall standard, which they are following in an old SASB, which has categorized the 77 industries, so these are very specific areas, and it has got its own specific variable which need to be disclosed. What is the right benchmark? Like K Electric also highlighted how they are doing a benchmarking around it. So they are looking at the industry, they are looking at the different jurisdiction, they are looking at the similar industries or the leader of the industry. But if I create a very simple framework from a target setting perspective, first thing which we have to do is to look at the regulation. The next step is the frameworks. If we are going with a green building certification or any other certification within the energy sector, so all those frameworks should be considered. The third area is the standards. What standards are suggesting? So there is a regulation, there are frameworks and standard. And the third thing is the market trend. Because you might be very compliant, you are looking at a certificate, but if you are not looking at the market may be moving faster. The regulator or standards say 7% reduction in emission, market is doing 20% in a 5 years time. You may be compliant, but not relevant. So these are the important area. And the fifth piece, which is most of the time missing in the entire space, which is a business case, like how we can have a solar at a 6 cent and hydro at a 15 cent or a 26 cent. So how it becomes feasible? So what are the financial and economics behind that? We have to understand if there is a power project, somebody has invested money, either in form of equity and debt, and there's a financial instrument. That financial instrument is expecting a certain level of return on the risk. And until we really understand that economics, whatever we say, nobody gonna invest just because we need a more renewable energy. And the world is running a biggest risk with the technology or transitional risk. If the carbon capture and storage technology comes and evolve very fast, all the fossil fuel-based power plant become feasible because that will capture it. So that's a one risk everybody taking who's investing in the renewable energy. So they need return. If you can move to next one. Next. Yeah. If you look at the key numbers, what's happening right now under CPEC. So we have got somewhere 22 projects, including the under consideration. We are looking at somewhere 13,000 megawatt capacity, which is being created. And if I pick up the one which are renewable and convert that using a global model, which they are using for RAC and the efficiency factor, we can see the value of RAC for that $23 billion investment. The RAC value at a lowest level at a $10, which is a very low value, is 6.5 billion. That means whatever we have invested in transmission, in non-renewable, in renewable, put everything together, 28% can be funded over the life of the project through renewable energy certificate or any other carbon credit mechanism which country can adopt. And there is a certain regulation which the world has already got. There are frameworks which the world already got the standards. There are trading platform. If it's not available in Pakistan, we have seen a one company trading that in Singapore right now. So I think the enablement and understanding, when we start a project, this is one of a return which normally we miss out and we don't account for. But if you account for that, so your debt instrument holder or equity instrument holder, for them, there is a return. this financial instrument require a regulatory framework, the proper definition, integration with the global frameworks, and then the trading platform. And this is not all. There are other things when you are doing solar or wind, how you do the conservation on the side, how you do other things. So nature-based debt to nature swaps are also available, particularly if you are working on a coastal lines and if you are really updating that shorelines and creating that fishery or any other thing that add further carbon credits to that. So these financial instrument was incorporated in Paris Agreement for a reason, because the world knew at that time the conventional financing is not going to generate enough return, and it's not going to good enough to really fund that kind of massive money, which this transition will be required, and the risk everybody will be putting there. So for me, if I say that in a power sector under the CPEC, our bigger opportunity is to look at the framework, what is material, start capturing data, use the regulatory regulations, the frameworks of certification, standards, and the market trends. And China is the one which needed the most in terms of the carbon credit, because they are the one who are the biggest partner in the global trade. And if the global trade has a regulation that every product which they are going to export need to offset their carbon at their inception or origin, so this is the one thing which China will be interested. And Germany has already, they have already burned their quota, and they are investing in Thailand to get those carbon credit, and they are using nature-based carbon credit, and the government has created a department to really validate everything. So I think this is where the regulation and the energy is going. So there's a reporting framework, but there's a financial framework which exists there, which require immediate attention. The rest of the world is using it. Why can't we? And EU has already set up the frameworks. We just have to copy and adapt. So that's all from my side. So thank you very much. Any question, we can take it later or now. Over to you, Mans.
It's a very comprehensive presentation, which also gives examples of what other countries are doing and how we can emulate that here. I actually want to, with your permission, I want to share something that we are going to be doing. And actually, I want our friends in BRIGC. Online are the other friends there? People who are online?
Yes.
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 I want to share something, and I think I would also, before I give the floor to my other friends, my other colleagues here, this is very unique cooperation. It's very sub that we are going to be doing. Sujit Sab, that there's what you said, a debt for nature. This is very important.
Yeah.
And President Xi has also unveiled a very important initiative, sir, ecological civilization initiative and ecological cooperation, which is linked with climate change, ecological preservation. So what we have done is that there is Jack Ma, the founder of Alibaba, and Pony Ma, the founder of Tencent, WeChat. Tencent is, as you know, one of the top 500 Fortune. They have set up this thing called the Paradise Foundation. And the Paradise Foundation has 9 reserves, nature reserves in China, which manages those nature reserves. And we have initiated cooperation to have an understanding of how that reserve can also have, for example, cooperation with the nature reserves and nature preservation here. Like the Margala Hills National Park is already a nature reserve. And the debt for nature, what you have said, is also linked with this. So how we can take, so the initial cooperation has already been laid out. I've already had the meeting with them. And now we will have an online dialogue between the Margala Hills National Park. And so this will be a specific, not a discussion, ecological cooperation, but a specific Chinese nature reserve, which is led by the Paradise Foundation, which is very important. And then Margala Hills National Park. And then we can replicate and see. So in that meeting, I would request, Umar, if individuals here are open and interested, that we can really, I think the foundation, this can be the foundation, but it can go far.
I'll give you one example there. There's a mechanism in US called mitigation bank. That's not physically like it's not a commercial bank, it's a mitigation bank. So anything any urban developer is doing in any part of the world or any part of US, they have to provide a certain money to that mitigation bank to conserve some other area which is required that kind of money. So those mitigation banks are becoming very rich in terms of money, and they have got that kind of different water streams and the parks and the area which is require certain conservation. So I think again that is created under a certain nexus of contracts as well as with a certain regulatory regime. And similarly, when we are talking about the TNC, the nature conservation agencies, which help Belize as well, so that's required a certain backing of all the regulation side of it. So I think there are two things. There are certain regulation which we don't need an assembly approval. We need a regulator to provide a certain framework draft, specifically the definition, so there shouldn't be any greenwash. So everybody can assess on a common understanding. But this concept for Pakistan is great. If we start looking at the conservation side, it's very important. So it's not only what we can conserve in terms of the carbon, the nature. We have got a lot of other conservation side, which is for very relevant for Buddhism as well. Their heritage is there. So I think that will start working in everywhere, not only on a climate change, but also on a heritage side.
Thank you. I think this is very critical, and I think you have to. You are an unofficial member of the. And well, I would also like that BRIGC can also, my dear friend Mr. Pang, can also give input on this. This is critical. This cooperation that we will have, and it will be the most important thing is it's practical.
Yeah,
it's not a discussion. This will happen, that will happen, and Pony Ma and Jack Ma. And the China Overseas Port Holding Company also knows these are important people in China. They're not just any company or any group. They're serious. They're serious stakeholders. So I would like to now give the floor to the leader of green energy in Pakistan, who has also been the chairman of the PPIB, the Private Power Infrastructure Board, Mr. Zuberi. And over to you, Excellency.
Thank you, Mr. Pasad. Let me first of all congratulate you on holding this workshop, very important topic of ESG. I have heard very excellent presentations from basically KESC, from SECP, and from Mr. Sajid. Excellent presentations. What I will do is that I will let you know what we are doing, China Three Gorges is doing on the ESG, and I will try to share my experiences that how we are implementing these ESG. Next, please. So first of all, I will give a brief introduction on CTG and CSAIL, our portfolio of renewable energy projects. Then I will talk on the corporate governance, which includes CCL, core values, corporate governance policy and practices. I will talk on ESG in the boardrooms, and then I will throw some light on the environment and social management policies of the CSAIL. Next, please. Next. Now, China Three Gorges is a world leader in hydros. Everybody knows. They are the owner, developer, and operator of the world's largest hydropower projects, having a capacity of 22,500 megawatts. This China Three Gorges came into being in 1994. They are not operating in China, but they are operating in more than 47 different countries around the world. They have a total installed capacity at the moment more than 140,000 megawatts. This includes hydro, solar, and wind. Total assets are more than $129 billion, and annual profits is around $5 billion. Next, please. Now, there is a China Three Gorges company. Under it, there is a subsidiary, which is China Three Gorges Investment Company. This subsidiary basically looks after the international projects of China Three Gorges. Under CTGI, there is a CSAIL, China Three Gorges South Asian Investment Limited. This company has 70% shareholding of CTG, 15% shareholding of the IFC, and 15% shareholding of Silk Road Fund. This company is extremely important because of this IFC. So we are incorporated all the international corporate good governance practices because of IFC and Silk Road. And CCL is developing 6 projects in Pakistan by a special purpose company, as SCCB does not allow to do any project until and unless we register a company with them. And then all the policy concessions are given to. Next, please. Next, please. Now, these are all renewable projects. We believe in clean and green energy. Our motto is to develop only projects based on clean and green energy, which is wind, solar, and hydro. Our first wind power project was commissioned in 2014. This project has completed its debt servicing, and it is the cheapest wind power project at the moment. Our second and third wind power projects were commissioned in 2018. Karot is a hydel project which we have recently commissioned, and it is a 720 megawatt project, and it is a unique in Pakistan that this project was completed ahead of schedule, 1 year ahead of schedule with a tremendous cost. This is because the company is a world leader in hydros. And in Pakistan, you have seen what is the cost overrun and what is the time overrun in hydropower. But it is amazing that this project was commissioned of 1 year ahead of the IG7 timeline, which was given. Step out. I'll be back. No problem. I will continue. And then, yes, then there is a Kohala project of 1124 megawatt, and this project is in a development stage. This project has some problems. Anyhow, all these problems will be overcome because, you know, this project is located in AJK, which is a different territory. So financing is a bit difficult. And then Mahal project. So this is all our portfolio of projects. Very recently, CCL has acquired projects in Egypt and Jordan. At the moment, our portfolio in Egypt and Jordan is 411 megawatt. We have bought another 800 megawatt project in Jordan and Egypt. So our portfolio is expanding. If you see, please, next. If you see our wind power projects are located in the south, and our hydropower projects are located in the north. All our hydropower projects are basically on Jhelum River. If you see on Jhelum River, there are about 6 projects. Out of that, 3 we are. Our first project is Karot. Let me show you this schematic diagram. This is a river flow. Next, please. This is the schematic diagram. The Jhelum River starts from Chakoti. Then there is a dam at Saram. It involves 2 tunnels of 17.4 kilometers. At Barsala, there is a dam. Then after that, there is a Mahal project. Then there is another private sector project, Azad Patan. And then just above Mangla, we are doing Karot project, 720. Now, CCL corporate cover. Please, next. Next, please. Now, our core values are competition, accountability, transparency, and sustainability. I will not talk about the mission, vision, because everybody knows that is a standard thing. Now, the corporate governance include that we try to adopt all world-class corporate governance standards. And we try to establish adequate internal control systems, risk management, and integrity compliance. Next, please. Our corporate governance framework is based on 4 key principles. First is accountability. Next is fairness. Then comes the transparency. And then it is a responsibility. Next, please. The key corporate policies and practices of CSAIL includes board governance, internal control and risk management system, shareholders' rights and relations, transparency and information disclosure. Next, please. This is a quick organization chart of the company. If you see, there is a CSAIL board. It has 7 members. 1 member is from IFC. 1 member is from Silk Road Fund. 1 is an independent member who belongs to Pakistan. Fourth is 1 member from CTGI, and remaining 3 are from Pakistan. There are shareholders, and there is then CSAIL management. All the affairs of the various departments of the CSAIL are being looked after by the CEO. Now, there are 4 important committees of the board. The most important committee is Integrity Compliance Committee. Next is Audit Committee, Finance Committee, and Strategy Committee. Next, please. Now, I will next, please. Now, I will talk about the structure of the integrity compliance. This is the most important element of our board. We have an integrity compliance committee. Chairman is an independent director of the CSAIL board. There is 3 members. 1 member is from internal audit. 1 member is from HR department. 1 member is from legal and risk management department. All the governance and complaint mechanism has fully been established and are operational. Trainings is being provided to all the employees of the CSAIL. Why? Because there are 7 policies which are related to this integrity compliance. There is a whistleblowing arrangement in which if anybody come to know about the corruption, about certain problems, about the basically what I can say fraud or anything, they can report it directly. Phone numbers are there. Anonymously, they cannot quote the name, or if they want, they can quote their name. And immediately, this committee comes in action. All supplier compliance system is in place. Vendors code and evaluation being implemented. Now, next, please. Now, there are 4 specific governance policy and procedures. There are about 7 integrity compliance policies. These are well documented, well published. There are 10 corporate governance guidelines and policies. There are about 11 documents related to internal procedures and manuals. There are about 11 documents related to environment and social management manual. And these documents are sacrosanctly implemented. The employees of the company are trained regularly so that they fully understand the documents and try to implement. Next, please. Now we have talked about ESG. Let me talk about ESG in the boardroom. What ESG in boardroom means: integration of environmental, social, and governance issue into the decision-making process of board of directors. The ESG factors are important to be discussed in the boardroom. The most important topics for the ESG are environmental, consideration, yes, with the environmental guidelines of the other responses. In our case, it is IFC and Silk Road Fund and SIG. There is a social responsibility. If, for example, we are doing projects in AJK and in Jempe, so we should do some CSR activities in that area. That is extremely important. Look where the project is. And we have done at CSAIL, we have done a tremendous amount of work on the corporate social responsibility. We have constructed many hospitals there. We have constructed 7 bridges in that area because there was a communication problem to the local problem. We have basically constructed basic health unit. Another novel program which we initiated was providing the scholarship to the backward area, a fully funded 4-year scholarship leading to BSc electrical engineering. About 33 students have already obtained degrees in BSc electrical engineering, and we have already had 10. So a lot of activities are being done. And during COVID, even the company provided a lot of equipment to government Pakistan and to that area. And all this equipment came from basically 3 chartered flights, which already is well received in Pakistan. Then there is a governance practices, risk management. Then there is a long-term sustainability. Then is a stakeholder engagement and reporting and transparency. So board gives due importance to all these. Incorporating ESG into the boardroom is extremely important for long-term sustainability and good corporate governance. Next, please. With all the lenders, and policies are being developed at CSAIL level, and the companies are required to implement those policies. They can fine-tune that policy also. And there is a biodiversity management plan, and there are other 20 specific site environment and social management plans having been developed and approved by IFC authorities and sponsors. CSAIL has developed, next please. Next, CSAIL has developed 20 environmental social management policies to manage environmental and social aspects of the project during construction and during operation also. ESMPs have been developed as per IFC standards, Pakistan standards, and other international standards, and they have been also approved. Now, next please. The things which are being monitored are air quality, water quality, waste, solid waste, biodiversity, hazardous waste, soil, emergency risk. Next, please. Now these are basically 10 environmental management plans which have been developed. These are well documented, and these are being implemented during the construction and during the operation of all our projects, which include wind and hydropower. And these are, monitoring is also very important. Inspection is carried out to implement these plans on daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis, quarterly basis. Meetings are held weekly, monthly, and quarterly. In quarterly meeting, even CTGI, IFC, and other stakeholders are. And reporting is done monthly to all stakeholders, which includes IFC, Silk Road Fund, CTG, and Government of Pakistan, monthly, quarterly, and annually. So thank you very much for this. If I have any question.
Very good models.
Sir, highlighting for all the good work done by CSAIL and China 3 projects. Thank you so much for your ESG compliance and your initiatives. Thank you so much for discussing ESG in boardrooms. Obviously, we do need ESG in boards. Yeah, we have discussed regulators' point of view. We have discussed Chinese version. We have discussed Sajid Saab had discussed all the modalities of financial and modalities of different carbon credits and markets and other sort of initiatives. I would now invite the chairman of China Overseas Port Holding, Mr. Yabu. The title of his presentation and intervention is ESG and its dynamics. So over to you, Mr. Yabu, please.
Thank you, sir. It's a good morning. It's a greeting from the Gavada. Can you hear me? And can I start the speech?
Yeah, you are audible. Sure, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to discuss the relationship between the ESG factors and the relation with the financial performance of company operation with our friends. Our company still be engaging in ESG reporting to provide transparency around impact and the risk in issues in relating to the environmental sustainability, social responsibility, and corporation governance. Our investor also take the ESG as the indicator of a company's long-term financial health and resiliency to the risk. Meanwhile, our consumer and potential employees are looking at company ESG ratings to reward good corporate citizenship. In that case, there are some of the issues and the metrics that CPEC is and will be tracking. In environmental impact section, we are paying attention to the carbon emission, climate exchange, energy efficiency, green supply chains, pollution control, renewable energy resource consumption, waste management, and so on. In social section, we are looking for community investments, data privacy, labor standards, sourcing and supply chain, diversity and inclusion, and take these seriously. In governance section, we are also thinking highly of the audit and oversight, board makeup, executive compensation, and transparency. Why we take so serious in ESG now and the existing? Actually, ESG efforts are not just good for society now. They are also good for the business. Evidence proves that the company with a strong ESG strategy tend to perform better in the long term than company without such plans. We as the company conclude that when ESG becomes a more market over a long-term horizon, we encourage improved financial performance. Furthermore, we found the ESG investing will provide a downside protection during the crisis. Meanwhile, the investor and the lender are using the ESG data to assess the company's strengths and future performance. This is happening at the macro and micro level with both institutional and individual investor. Lastly, the ESG also built value for company. We can driving growth through the innovation and the evolution. We can cutting cost by reducing the waste lower energy consumption. And we also can reduce the regulatory and the legal challenge, and also earn the subsidiary, avoid the fines and the enforcement action. All in all, a strong ESG program can definitely support company to manage the risk, reduce cost, and proactivity involving to stay ahead of the market. By all these reasons, the COBC, our company, paid a lot of attention and resource in ESG program. Now, especially in the CSR in Gavada region, such as the donation in education, school building, scholarship, library, and also poor students. In poverty release by creating jobs, teaching more skills, and medical condition improvement by bringing in the medical doctors and some other medical facilities for the local people, and so on. Such programs have received many welcome and agreed from the local government, community, and the local brothers. We are also delighted to see that and plan to do more. This year, 2023, is the 10th anniversary of the CPEC. We achieved a lot success in the projects in the old country, in the whole route. Chinese company complete many CSR program around the CPEC route. CPEC, we have come to the next phase and move on to the industry cooperation and also many other sectors. I do believe under the two countries' government instruction and two companies join hand and cooperation, more and more leading institute like a PCI pay their effort and support. CPEC will become more success, and Pakistan will become more wealthy, powerful, and green. Thank you. Bhakti Dosti Zindabad. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. We thank you for your efforts in Gavadar, particularly in terms of ESG. Thank you so much for highlighting that ESG is not only good for, environment, social, and governance. It is good for businesses for their long-term profitability and how to manage their long-term risk as well. So thank you so much. And I think Mr. Yabu has set a good stage for me as well, because I am the next one who will be presenting the ESG regulation in EU options for Pakistan. So if my slides can be presented. Okay, I'm Dr. Khalid Walid. I'm from STPI. I would be talking on ESG regulation in EU. First of all, I would be talking about the ESG, the law and organization. The natural tendency within organization is disorganization, loss of relationship. Okay. The previous slide, please. Okay, it causes general chaos. Another entropy, which is external to the organization. If organization is not supporting the external environment, the entropy will cause chaos internally as well. So the organization, businesses, they need to integrate their internal efforts so that they could prevent the external entropy and they could uh, prevent that general chaos. So next slide, please. There are two types of risks: short-term risks in production functions. Short-term production function risks are supply chain disruptions, machinery-related risks, where they broke down, quality issues, sudden demand fluctuations, labor disruptions, technological failures, regulatory and compliance issues. And then there are long-term issues, long-term production risk. Those are that technology got obsolete, sustained supply chain issues, macroeconomic factors, changing consumer preferences, labor market changes, regulatory changes, and then there are environmental and risk, climate risk. I have highlighted it in red because environment and climate risk, they are associated with all of those risks and all of these short-term risks. Sajid Saab mentioned that consumer preferences will change because the wealth is now being controlled by youth, and youth is very well aware of what they need to buy and what they are going to buy. And if that is not ESG compliant, the consumer preferences will change, the labor market will change, the macro economy will change due to climate risk, and supply chains issue will be sustained due to these climatic factors and environmental risk. And then companies will face short-term risk in abundance, and then there are long-term risks. So that it is in the favor of businesses, it is in the favor of firms, so that they incorporate ESG not just to mitigate the long-term risk, but the short-term risk or short-term financial risk as well. So next slide, please. There is EU double materiality approach. First one is that financial material sustainability risk, which is known as outside-in risk. These are traditional risks. For example, companies' profits would decline due to natural disasters, human conflicts, etc., etc. Then there are some inside-out risks which company poses on the external environment. For example, environmental degradation and other sort of externalities due to companies induced pollution and other sort of externalities and other sort of climate change agendas. So we need to incorporate these two risks when we form the production or production decision, or we are forming the long-term sustainability or long-term profitability analysis. We need to have this outside-in approach, and then we have to have this inside-out approach as well, so that this circle that real economy is degrading or people are degrading our planet could be mitigated. So next slide, please. There are three regulatory frameworks which I'm going to talk about. First one is Non-Financial Reporting Directive, known as NFRD. Second one is Sustainable Finance Disclosure Regulation, SFDR, sorry, and then the EU Taxonomy Regulation. These are the part of EU's efforts to integrate sustainability into businesses and financial activities. NFRD, the purpose of NFRD is to improve the transparency and compatibility of non-financial information provided by certain large public interest entities. This include information related to environmental, social, and governance aspects. The target is large public sector entities. The main feature is that to comply and to explain approach, if a company decides not to disclose certain non-financial information, it needs to explain why it is not showing this kind of information. Then there is SFDR. The purpose of SFDR is to enhance and standardize the disclosure of information regarding ESG and adverse sustainability impacts on the financial services sector. The targeted market or target aspect is that financial market participants like investment firms and financial advisors in the EU. The main features of this SFDR is that it deals with how sustainability risks are incorporated into their processes and the product level, how products consider sustainability risks and impacts. And then there is EU taxonomy. The purpose of EU taxonomy is to provide businesses and investors with a clear framework to identify which activities can be considered environmentally sustainable. The target is any stakeholder looking for looking to identify an investment in environmentally sustainable activities. The main feature is that we need to combat with greenwashing so that the real benefit of ESG can be incorporated in this. Next slide, please. Okay, these three regulations, the scope of these three are that NFRD targets public interest, whereas SFDR, it implies to financial markets. Sajid have also mentioned that EU taxonomy, it creates framework and for classifying the environmentally sustainable activities. In terms of objectives, NFRD encourages businesses to integrate sustainability into their strategies, into their profitability functions. SFDR, it seeks ensure FMPs and FAs related to financial taxonomy. EU taxonomy provides clarity on what is generally environmentally sustainable, minimizing the risk of greenwashing. What is the flex? NFRD has a comply or explain approach, whereas SFDR has includes some comply or explain provisions, particularly for smaller firms. Whereas in terms of EU taxonomy, it establishes a firm set of criteria to classify activities as environmentally sustainable. Next slide, please. Okay, what is the enforcement date? NFDR is very, it goes back to date in 2014. And it starts from the financial year 2017. SFDR started March 10th, 2021. EU taxonomy, July 12, 2020. What are the target issues? NFRD aims for greater ESG disclosure to help investors and stakeholders to make more informed decisions. SFDR emphasizes transparency in addressing sustainability risks across financial services, both in terms of firms' financial decisions and the investors' decision. EU taxonomy focuses on providing clarity against greenwashing. In terms of their breadth, NFRD primarily focus on non-financial, whereas SFDR is basically based on financial institutions and financial entities. EU taxonomy provides a comprehensive categorization system for the environmentally sustainable activities. Next slide. So assessing the materiality of ESG metrics in the context of wind and solar or other renewable energy products under China-Pakistan corridor requires considering the specific characteristics of the region, the nature of projects, the interest of the involved stakeholder, and the strategic goals of CPEC, obviously. In terms of environmental metrics, there should be carbon emission reduction, obviously, land use and biodiversity, water use, water management. I think one most important thing is the renewable energy mining. We need to have this ESG incorporated into mining as well, because according to International Energy Agency, 80% more mining would be required if we want energy transition to go forward. In terms of social metrics, community engagement, health and safety, resettlement and compensation, just like Sajid mentioned, that cultural preservation is also important in terms of CPEC as well, because there is a potential of Buddhist religious tourism as well. In terms of governance metrics, transparency, accountability, and obviously the local capacity building. Next slide, please. So what should be the roadmap under CPEC? We need to create awareness and capacity building. For this, academia could be taken on the board. Legal and regulatory framework. Madam is sitting over there representing SCCP, stakeholder engagement, monitoring and evaluation. SCCP can do that. And lastly, we need to have this integrated and regional sort of approach so that we can ensure not only ESG, but just energy transition as well. Next slide, please. This would be the last slide. And this is the roadmap for developing countries, not developing countries with a focus to Pakistan. I have just tried to draft this roadmap so that we can have this EU sort of NFRD, we can involve Ministry of Finance to draft this localized version of NFRD. We can then create some awareness through workshop and on non-financial reporting through Ministry of Commerce, so that private entities could be involved, private businesses could be involved. Then we can develop a sustainable finance regulatory framework through State Bank, create Pakistan's environmental taxonomy through MOCC training programs for financial institutions, State Bank of Pakistan, establishing a monitoring and evaluation mechanism, just like the SCCP do. And lastly, regular stakeholder engagements with all relevant ministries and stakeholders. So I would argue that, and I would encourage that we should have more meeting like this involving not only public entities, but private sector as well, interministerial dialogue, so that we can take on board all the ministries, Ministry of Finance, Commerce, Ministry of Commerce Change, Climate Change, and Environmental Protection Boards as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so the last presentation, last intervention would be from Dr. Zainab Naeem. He is the head of Circular Economy Unit. The topic would be ESG data and performance indicator for solar and wind power projects, key metrics for investors. I would also request Zainab that he could also highlight the importance of private sector and circular economy in this, ensuring the ESG. Thank you. Over to you.
Sajid Aslam Sahab and Madam Zohra and Zubairi Sahab, and also the representative from K Electric and China. So basically, I am not going to present anything. Most of the topics have already been highlighted. I'm just going to discuss the performance indicators, particularly in context of solar and wind power projects, and how Pakistan, these projects in Pakistan, particularly the CPEC collaboration, can integrate ESG reporting metrics and the KPIs within Pakistan. So first of all, we have to assess that there's a difference between sustainability reporting and ESG reporting. Sustainability is a very broad term, and it gives an opportunity to companies for greenwashing. But ESG can mitigate that risk associated with greenwashing. ESG is part of sustainability reporting. So it has specific indicators when it is compared to the Agenda 2030 reporting mechanism. In context of wind power and solar power, I believe Zubairi Saab has mentioned some of the key matrices already that can be utilized. But if I talk about solar and wind power projects, I believe there has to be a risk management plan first when we are talking about KPIs. There are different standards. There's a global reporting initiative that has already been followed by different corporate sector organizations. Then there are sustainability accounting standards board. But in terms of, in context of developing countries, keeping in view different economic and political challenges, I believe there's a need to develop our own local KPIs first, and then we can integrate it with the international compliance and standards. So in context of Pakistan, if we are talking about the renewable energy projects, first of all, when we are discussing ESG issues, these are those issues that cannot be highlighted in terms of monetary terms. These are non-financial issues that have to be reported, and we have to quantify the data, and that is where the challenge arises, the data quantification, because data reporting and unavailability is a key issue. So in that perspective, risk management strategy has to be in place. Secondly, when we are talking about solar and wind power projects, there has to be an energy management system. And it is better if energy efficiency management system is in compliance with ISO standard. I believe that is 5001 standard that is particularly linked with the energy efficiency management system. If you are able to bring into that with compliance with that standard, that would be great, because that standard almost covers all the regulations that have to be in place for the solar and wind power projects. Apart from that, EMP, Environmental Management Plan, for every company, it has to be there. When we talk about environmental management plan, it covers environmental risk insurance. It covers everything that is associated with the sudden onset of events that are being caused by the climate catastrophe, and also the slow onset events and the long-term and short-term planning that has to be in place. Also, we need to move beyond the forestation when we are focusing on the E side of ESG. China has actually integrated it very carefully and very practically, that we are not able to manage, and even some of the developed countries have not been able to manage. Even if we are talking about European countries, they have not been able to manage the E side and the within the ESG, because we have to balance the E, S, and G when we have to do the reporting. So in Pakistan, if we are talking about disclosure and data reporting and bringing that report forward to the public, and keeping in view the current challenges that we are facing, especially the climate change, it has to be more focused on E, then S, and then G. That is going to mitigate the greenwashing effects. If a company is having its own environmental management plan in place that is beyond forestation, that is more linked to what it is going to what approach it is going to take, what proactive approach it is going to take if there's a situation of floods, if there's a situation that is going to create havoc for in the form of socio-economic crisis, what impact it's going to have within the organization, and how it is going to give in to the society. I think that is where the company is actually able to mitigate the risk first. Then carbon dioxide, carbon emission reporting. Scope 1 is associated with the organization. Scope 2 and Scope 3 is the biggest challenge. Scope 2 is also something that the organization is indirectly linked with. For instance, a company buying electricity from another company that has no ESG standard and that is not clean energy, that is Scope 2 emissions. And Scope 3 are those that are completely indirect and where company is not completely linked with. So these emissions have to be integrated within the carbon dioxide or carbon emission reporting mechanism scheme. And if an EMP is developed, within that EMP, the companies are able to report their emissions. If the companies are reporting the Scope 1 emissions, then I believe Scope 2 and Scope 3 can be negated. Because if the data is being reported by a company, that is an opportunity for the company to attract the investments, because the data is there, right? Secondly, for the corporate governance structure, I believe we are too good with our CSR initiatives. We are giving to the society in the form of different initiatives like K Electric has mentioned, like Madam has discussed. But I believe there has to be more on the side that is linked with the climate nowadays, because this is the new global agenda. We need to focus more on how we can turn the opportunity within solar and wind into the green employment opportunities, because it is already a green initiative, but how we are turning it into green employment opportunities within our country, how we are developing the green skills for the country, and how we are promoting it on that front. So these are some of the metrics that have to be in place. Secondly, the supply chain and the end of life management. I believe I haven't seen anything like decommissioning after decommissioning of projects. What the company is going to do when a project is decommissioned. So there's an opportunity for that. There are many case studies available regarding how after a certain project has been decommissioned in the solar and wind, it was turned into the waste upcycling project. For example, they have been recycling their wind and solar panels, and how they're converting it for the waste upcycling. So that is how the circularity can be integrated. Waste economy is still untapped within our country, and that has a lot of potential. So I think if we are integrating the circular economy perspective within the ESG regulations and how we'll be managing it at the supply chain level, that is going to create another opportunity for investors, because circularity is now a buzzword. And internationally, there are a lot of investments coming in. So how we are tackling with the waste of solar and wind, that is going to create an opportunity for the investors. Apart from that, I think the DEI, the diversity, equity, and inclusion, we are pretty much good about that. But we are not good about reporting that to attract the investments. We are doing that. There are different opportunities in solar. There are already programs like WISE and WIRE programs, Women in Renewable Energy. But what about having the third gender within this matrix, right? Giving them the opportunities. Giving them the opportunities and including them within this reporting metrics. That is where another opportunity exists for attracting the investments. And also in context of collaboration, R&D. When we are reporting our ESG, the R&D collaboration strategy has to be there. And secondly, if within R&D we have to tell what we are going to do for the collaboration purpose and what are the existing collaborations, we need to show it to attract the investments. Collaboration opportunities and innovation that the company has. Secondly, as far as the S factor is concerned and also the governance factor, if we start doing the need assessment within our own organizations, if we start assessing if what the employees think of the overall management of the companies, and we start reporting that assessment within the ESG report, that is also going to create an opportunity for the investors. So these are some of the metrics. It is not a rocket science, or we do not have to go for each and every international standard. We can develop our own standards. And I think this is where the challenge, the opportunity lies for the digitization as well. As Mustafa Saab mentioned, that China is also talking about digital corridor. So why cannot we integrate cybersecurity policy within our organization? We are now going digital with so much of our mechanisms and our processes within organizations. So if there's a cybersecurity policy, that is going to create another opportunity for the investors, that the company is working around cybersecurity, around the digitization network. So how we are going to invest, that report is going to create an opportunity. So thank you so much. That's all.
Thank you so much, Zainab. I would say that the lesson is that we all have heard that माँ की गोद से कब्र तक इल्म हासिल करो. So I think we should incorporate that as well. From supply chain to waste management or end of life waste management, we should incorporate ESG into entire this supply chain management to waste management or end of life waste management. Thank you so much for highlighting that we need to have a tailored sort of ESG framework or ESG accounting metrics. Thank you so much. With this, I think we come to end of this beautiful and very insightful workshop on assessing the materiality of ESG metrics in wind and solar power projects under CPEC. I would like to thank my Chinese friend. I would like to thank Pakistan China Institute for arranging this. Mustafa Saab has to leave for another meeting. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much, Sajid Saab, Zainab, Zubairi Saab, and ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Keep on having these meetings. These are very, very good for developing Pakistan's version of ESG. Thank you so much, Mustafa.